in the judiciary. Uh, as for the research conducted by the Center for Media, it has found in 2005 there were 2300 crores rupees were spent on the bribery in a different form. This survey is based on the facts, based on the statements given by the individuals. So, we are conducting this research, and to reach some certain conclusion, we will be presenting it to the Government of India. Though we are purely based on the documents that are available through the Government of India websites or SEC Online or Air India reports. So the efficiency, my question is, if we must think about the efficiency of the judges, the kind of a judgment they deliver, the number of judgment they deliver, the basic purpose of this is. And I think is I don't have that much experience to interpret or explain the results. Uh, so I hand over this mic to Tusarji to take it forward.
Can I go to the podium?
Yeah, please.
Bharatji, Manojji, Kavirajji and friends, Bharatji doesn't suffer from the handicap with which I suffer. Being an arguing counsel for years, I am always more comfortable addressing anyone while being on my legs. Secondly, at the outset I say, I am conscious of the fact that this is the final session and I am standing between you and the cocktail dinner. So I undertake not to take much. When the subject, I was just analyzing the subject, good governance in legal system, the first reaction to my mind was that if we take these two words separately, good governance and legal system, the necessary conclusion is that the legal system is surviving on bad governance. So good governance in legal system is a different subject, but legal system would never survive if there is good governance. But we are now concerned with the question of how can we introduce or inculcate the concept of good governance in the system of law. We have administrative reforms, we have legislative reforms, we have judicial reforms, but no reforms seem to be working so far as it relates to good governance in law. I would put this question into three compartments. And whatever I say, please take this to be a suggestion to the organization to work more on this. And this session, rather than being the ending session, may become a beginning session based upon which some infrastructure can be built, some thought process can be evoked, some discussions take place, and some concrete result is found. There are three facets when we talk about good governance in law. First facet is judiciary. Second facet is the bar. And the third facet is the government. If we demarcate the perceived system of good governance into these three facets and can correlate each of them with each other, what we get as a result product is the good governance in legal system. Now coming to the judiciary first. How can the judiciary help in the good governance in a legal system? I'm not on broad principles of integrity, etc. I'm on the basic brass facts. As Kavirajji rightly said, that the first and foremost thing which would be required to begin with when we are talking about good governance is competence and efficiency of the judges. This may sound a little contemptuous, but you cannot have good governance in a legal system unless and until your judiciary, the judicial officers who are manning the system, are competent. In all countries, including India, we have formed the habit of ascertaining good governance in terms of number of cases decided in a year. But I have a little different approach to this issue. I don't believe that number of cases decided in a year can ever be a decisive factor to decide whether we have been able to give good governance to the country, to the litigant or not. Matter of dispensation of justice can never be a matter of statistics. Merely because one judge disposes of 200 cases in a month cannot per se mean that he is delivering justice to 200 litigants. 200 litigants get justice only if that one judge has competence, efficiency, and integrity all taken together. First step is the selection process of judges, where we have a system where we appoint only efficient and competent judges. That is the first step. How it is to be achieved? Whether the system existing as on date is sufficient, whether the system which is being introduced by the present government would prove to be efficient, time will say, needs analysis, need elaboration, need debate and discussion. But the focus would be on selection of competent judges. If this happens, the second facet of the judiciary by which the judiciary can contribute in the good governance of law will be automatically taken care of, that is, speed in delivering justice. With a caveat that mere speed would not mean dispensation of justice, but an equipped judge, a competent judge, an enlightened judge would be able to deliver justice faster and thereby reducing the number of errors, because we are as on date working under a system, the judicial system, the legal system, where the severe apprehension is that the system may collapse under its own weight. And we shall have to do something to ensure that this doesn't happen. Third facet, or the third limb by which the judiciary can help in good governance in legal system in deciding to write short judgments. Friends, all of you are from the legal fraternity. If you see the judgments, if you read the judgments of 50s, 60s, 70s and mostly up to 80s, even full bench decisions deciding very crucial, very complicated, complex questions of law used to be over in 4 or 5 pages judgment, and you will find nothing is missed. Now we have judgments running into hundreds and thousands of pages. Somehow, some system will have to be worked out whereby, though respectfully but with conviction, the honorable judges are told that judgments are not supposed to be theses on the subject, but are supposed to be a decision deciding the list between the two litigants. These are the 3 areas where the judiciary can help in good governance in the legal system. Now I come to the second facet, that is bar. How can the bar contribute in good governance of law? The first and foremost, and admittedly, I am also admitting, the most difficult expectation from the people from the bar is that you take, accept, file and argue only good causes where your conscience is satisfied that injustice is done. It would be very difficult, rather impossible, but if we really want our system to function well, and if we really understand and appreciate that we are a part of the system, unless the system functions well, we cannot survive. We will have to do this, being choosy about the matter, being choosy about the case to be filed. Second, again, a very difficult proposition for lawyers, short submissions. We tend to argue endlessly. We go on and on and on and on. We exhaust judges. We exhaust ourselves and ultimately add to the arrears. I am reminded of one real life incident in 1910 or 15. I'm not sure of the date. But there was a legendary judge called Justice Blacksmith. He was known not only for his legal acumen but for his wit also. Once a matter was called out, a lawyer got up and Lord Blacksmith asked, "Yes, counsel, what time you will take?" The counsel said, "My lords, my submission would be over within 20 minutes. His lordship asked, "Would you stop thereafter?" Because most of the lawyers, our submissions are over within 20 minutes, we don't stop thereafter. If this is how we can contribute to the system, being precise, being concise, and that quality can come only if we are fully prepared with the brief. It's very difficult to be precise and very easy to be verbose, elaborate, and long. If you know nothing, you can beat around the bush for 2 hours. But if you know the subject, you know where to concentrate, how to formulate, resulting into convincing the judge. Third contribution from the bar can be again a difficult proposition. Less number of adjournments being sought. Friends, adjournment provision wherever they exist, whether in Indian laws or any law of the country, adjournment laws are for furtherance of the system of justice and are not a beneficial legislation for lawyers. We as lawyers have elevated the right to seek an adjournment to the level of fundamental rights under Part 3 of the Constitution of India. We will have to seriously do something about it. Sometimes judges check that tendency. Some lawyers impose that self-discipline and assess the cause of justice. Now comes the most important factor which can contribute to the good governance in the legal system, and that is government. First and very basic, very fundamental, it is for the government to provide for infrastructure. Infrastructure would include not only the bricks and buildings, but also including the requisite staff, the requisite paraphernalia, the requisite libraries, requisite funds, as Bharatji said. This government, I can say, is committed to do that. But the organization will have to work out a plan, work out a model, work out a project, which can be presented to the state government, that this is what we suggest so far as infrastructure is concerned, which would strengthen good governance in the field of law. Because we have the statistics, we have commissions, law commissions, we have the law ministry. People are working on it, gathering the statistics. What is the infrastructure required? We have. What is the infrastructure already we have? The data is available. Somebody will have to come out with a project that this is how the infrastructure available and infrastructure required, the bridge can be, the gap can be breached, which I believe this organization can do. Second, quick appointment of judges and filling up all judicial vacancies. Friends, as Bharatji has already pointed out, there is a serious question, a serious problem of judicial vacancies. I would not say government is the only party which is responsible for the delay in appointment of judges, but government also has its own role by which it can expedite the process of appointment of judges. Next contribution which the government is expected is to appoint competent people as government lawyers, because government is the largest litigant. 80%, 90% of the cases, government is a party. If government lawyer is ill-equipped, not sufficiently prepared, not conversant with the law, I'll stop using adjectives here because I belong to that fraternity. Then it would be very difficult for any system, even if we have the best judicial system, even if we have best government infrastructure, nothing can happen if a litigant who contributes to 80% of the litigation is represented by a person who knows nothing or who knows less than what is expected of him. Next, digitalization. Digitalization, there was already a separate independent topic during the session. I need not elaborate, but whenever and wherever I have seen digitization in court, I have found the court functioning becoming more and more effective and more litigant friendly, apart from being transparent, because you get the pleadings online, etc., etc. But I don't dwell much on that. Third part, next part, which I have categorized under the heading of corruption. It was very easy to say that the heading of corruption should have gone in the first limb, namely the judiciary.